Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's get right to this mail. It says, "What the hell is going on at Marvel?" Well, as you've heard from other videos I've done recently, by the way, and before you read the mail, it's important to track what's going on with Marvel. It may be tempting as a fan to say, "I don't care, I stopped buying comics," but it turns out because Marvel is the dominant player in comics, because a lot of the comic shop retail work revolves around Marvel, and because they have this anchor of movies and everything else. And because Disney is expecting, now they may be horribly surprised, but Disney is expecting that, Secret Wars and the next two Avengers movies are going to do big money. Robert Downey Jr. coming back, people are going to go to those movies. Um, despite what the internet wants you to believe, I don't think Fantastic Four is going to bomb. And it is, they have a natural backdraft of some of that stuff. Yes, it is absolutely true that the movies do not translate to comic sales in a lot of cases, but the overall kind of interest and push of Marvel is benefited by all this additional publicity and everything else that they do. Okay, so what does all this? What does all this mean? It means that Marvel pretty much controls where the industry goes. If Marvel hurts, the industry hurts. Now, DC, is always working to try and fix that, and you get plenty of independents at Image trying to fix that, and so you got lots of people who are trying to, basically neutralize Marvel's impact on comic sales. Appropriately so, they need to, because you can't have the entire industry revolving around somebody who's dragging ass like Marvel Comics is currently doing. Now we'll read this mail, which kind of illustrates a little bit how this is dragging. And for what it's worth, this is not a comic suck video. This is not a too woke video. And if you like some of Marvel's comics, good for you. But you have to realize the sales at Marvel are abysmal. I've seen Penguin Random House numbers for Marvel. They are bad. Really top selling titles are doing bad. So here we go. This mail says, "Dear Perch, earlier today, Marvel solicitations for September were released, and I was quite shocked by the amount of books that either seem to be ending or to have already been canceled. These titles include West Coast Avengers, which has been confirmed canceled, New Champions, Psylocke, Daredevil, Magic, Helverine, and Phoenix. While all the new books starting in September are either miniseries or one-shots. I'm not even joking. Also, Iron Man is ending in July with issue 10. I also doubt that Red Hulk and Laura Kinney's solos are long for this world. I get that Marvel's probably doing an X-Book relaunch in a few months, so that's why a lot of this stuff is ending. But man, having Daredevil and Iron Man ending around the same time is something. Now I get the feeling like the new Captain America book will end up ending at issue 10. Marvel is in a really rough place right now. I have thoughts about the recent announcements about Spider-Man, but I'll keep it for another mail." Okay, fair enough. So what's going on at Marvel? Well, I'll give you the boring answer first of what's going on at Marvel, and that's that Marvel is undergoing one of the later stages of ingestion into Disney corporate. They've been doing this for a couple of years now. And you're seeing more and more of Disney getting folded, or Marvel getting folded into Disney. And this goes in weird little bursts. First, they look for synergies like, hey, we could really get some alignment with our, Disney press and our marketing and some of our legal. Hey, some of our third-party agreements could be folded in here, and that'll give us some efficiencies. We don't need to have two disconnected teams. And so you get little things like that are going on at Marvel. And now we're taking another step where it's like, well, let's fold things in a little bit more. And all this is creating a bit of paralysis inside the company. There is a sense whenever there's a restructuring or some one business is folding into another, the most common occurrence is that everybody just kind of stops doing anything because it's suddenly unclear, who can sign what contract, what kind of long-term things we can do. We have to take it up. No manager is actually, going out there and saying, I'll go ahead and sign that 3-year deal, because you don't know, like, if you will be the manager in 3 years, and you don't know who will be. And, there's up at the top, they're like, well, we haven't quite figured out how this restructuring is going to work. So let's just do a lot of things short term. And that's the biggest thing that's going on at Marvel right now. You're seeing an ingestion to Disney. more, and you're just seeing a general paralysis. The other thing you're seeing at Marvel is and this is kind of a more soft as target. It's just as true as everything else, but it's softer to describe. Is you've got people at Marvel who have kind of convinced themselves that the way they're doing it is the best way to do it and the only way the market will accept. So in this instance, Marvel, and you see this in blogs from Tom Brevoort and others, where they'll say things like, "Hey, in today's current climate, a comic can't really get past 10 issues. It's very difficult to get past 10 issues, and then we can relaunch it with a new team, and then that just makes lots of money, and we're on top of everything. So this clearly must be the right way to do it. This is how everybody does it, right?" There is that sense of, no, 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 no. This is just how the comic business works. We know because we're number one. So therefore, what we're doing is correct. So therefore, we'll keep doing it. And that is that attitude is pervasive within Marvel. It is extremely strong that people think this and are doing this, and it's extremely damaging as well. It's not helpful that this is how it's operating its business. It's not true that the business just works this way. And despite, you can kind of create your own truth. And so if you take a bunch of comics and then you undermarket them and don't do a good job of sewing up creator contracts and you bank heavily on variant covers and incentive programs, and then the issue, basically balloons up to an unnatural state. And this is my real point. By the way, DC needs to learn this too. You all, see, I'm in Texas long enough. Y'all, you've got to stop patting yourselves on the back when you sell 150,000, 200,000 copies for a number one issue of something or higher, because that number is a fake fictional number. There's a shitload of variance and collectability in that number. Doesn't mean you ignore it. Doesn't even mean you shoot for that. Why not? I mean, the retailers are often happy to move comics. So on one hand, that's perfectly fine. But if you're assessing the health of your business, the health of a title, you do need to kind of have a metric that you're at least tracking that is sell-through, read-through, not just sell-through. Sell-through can be, hey, Midtown ordered, 50,000 copies of Absolute Batman #1, so it's clearly doing an amazing job. Yeah, except on month 5, how many copies are being sold through? What does the drop look like? And I do think DC is thinking about this more. With Marvel, they have just kind of transitioned their thinking to say, this is just business. This is just how it works. This is everything else. You put out a number one issue and then everything falls off the fucking cliff in issue 2 and issue 3 and issue 4. And then we just cancel it and do it again with a new issue. And I've talked to several editors at Marvel. They don't look at the numbers this way. They seem to, I have people who still every now and then show up, find my channel, watch the sales videos that I did and go, wow, I never thought about this. And it's like, okay, if you're a fan and somebody who's just been, say, reading Hawkman and you're curious why it got canceled, I totally understand why this is new news to you, surprising. And it's like, oh, I've never seen this before. Totally reasonable. If you're an editor at a major comic publisher, it's not acceptable that you haven't thought about the business this way before. It's just not. I don't care how sweet you are. I don't care how nice you are. I don't care what kind of pet projects. I also, in some ways, I don't care how overworked you are. Understanding and tracking mentally the business of your book and how it's sold, how it's promoted, and how it's dropped is a core part of your job. So ending a comic at issue 5 or issue 10 and then just rebooting it ad infinitum because that's how it's done is a bad way to run your business. And yet you've got tons of people who are running their business exactly that way. And it's broken. To put it very mildly, it's broken. And so what's going on at Marvel, you have a distracted company who's getting reorged and shuffled. And so you've got a lot of paralysis, got a lot of people just not doing anything. You have, pretty senior people who I've heard kind of walk around scared that any day could be their last day. Okay, that's going to be great for productivity. And then on top of that, you have a certain arrogance to say, well, I mean, I don't know. This is just the way the business works. I think this is how it must work. And they're just operating under those principles. They're operating under the idea that you know, we'll just keep canceling and rebooting. And so that's why you get to September and you look at things, it's like, I guess we're canceling all the books. I mean, look, it is not healthy at Marvel to not be able to have a top selling regular Iron Man or Captain America book on the shelves. The fact that you keep having to reboot them, the fact that you cannot put a good story out, the fact that, I mean, what was that Captain America run for a while with Steve Rogers, and he had a theater of like some kind of weird mystical theater of odd people. Or do you remember this? It was like this was like 2 runs ago. This was before the really weird one where Sam Wilson was getting brainwashed to be a slave on cotton picking fields and floating cities. That's not me being racist. That was the comic. I mean, come the fuck on. You know that's not going to sell well. You know that's not going to do well. You have an Iron Man book where it's like, actually, he's lost his company. Oh my God, we've never seen this before out of Iron Man. Who thought that this revolutionary, amazing, storyline that has never been done before? So he's gonna make his armor steampunk, and he's gonna carry around a big sword. Like, I'm sorry, that's dumb as fuck. That's not a plan. That is not a that you and if you have your top selling books at Marvel, or what should be your top selling books, your most recognizable characters, you've got the MCU and Disney banking off the idea that Robert Downey Jr., paying him some ungodly amount of money to drag him back as the Iron Man turned Doctor Doom. Like, that works in the movies, and then translation over in the comics, we've got sword wielding steampunk Iron Man fight, just with the most not ready for primetime atrocious dialogue ever. I mean, I'm sure that writer is a lovely person, and everything is great, but that comic was awful. The writing in it is terrible. It is no surprise it is being canceled, but it is a surprise that Marvel Comics is allowing top characters like Thor, Iron Man, Captain America to be in these titles that are just have no momentum behind them at all. And when that's what they've got, guess who suffers? Yes, definitely the retailers. Absolute, and yes, the fans too, because they don't have good comics to read. But from a business perspective, the fans are the end piece of this puzzle who just are noping out. That's not the suffering we're worried about right now. We're worried about the fact that no money is being made. And when Marvel, when you can't get a top selling Captain America book out, or Iron Man book out, or Avengers book out, or X-Men book out, when those things are a disaster, you know who hurts? Well, yeah, Batman, Superman, Hawkman, Green Lantern, they hurt. Because Marvel tanking hurts everybody. It hurts Image. It hurts, whatever. Yeah, Rick Remender's doing some independent comic that some idea that he loves, and that hurts. Like, it blows up everything. It forces the comic shops to become very reliant on Pokemon cards as their source of income. Is that healthy for the comics industry? Reminds me a little bit of conventions when people are like, well, it sure sucks that, comic books aren't the focus of a comic book convention. Instead, there's all these movies and games and other bullshit, and comic books feel like a second priority. Well, yeah, but your actions are creating that. And when you go into a comic shop, comics are not the priority. And yeah, that sits on a lot of Marvel's feet. So what's going on with Marvel? Paralysis because of reorgs, arrogance because of the way their business model doesn't work, but to keep trying to con everybody and thinking it does. And it's stupid. It is, as a retailer, as a fan, as a reader, this is all bullshit. It is not acceptable. You should not have Iron Man ending at issue 10 while simultaneously the biggest story out there in superhero movies is that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, and that's a big deal. But Iron Man can't survive 10 issues. Yeah, make it make sense. Thanks for listening.